the most significant media effect theories purported by Walter Lippmann, a prolific media scholar. Now, the theory justifies that setting an agenda really goes beyond mere planning, and it is about what the media does to help society think about something either positive or negative. Tonight, again, we pay keen attention to the issues that matter in Sierra Leone's current governance and democracy, the very steps that could either break or make a whole package of allegations of irregularities after every elections in the country, especially between the APC and SLPP as the two major political parties in Sierra Leone's political landscape. It is the responsibility of every sober media outlet to ask the questions and draw the audience to early warning signs of political tensions as the country moves slowly to 2028 elections. For instance, the All People's Congress, APC, is the only opposition party in parliament, and for obvious reasons expected to collaborate with President Bio's governance in ensuring that the very good governance we cherish so dearly works for the interest of all, and not just a specific sect of people. This is what communal democracy is all about, and not individualism, selfishness, greed, and corrupt system of governance. The role of an opposition goes beyond mere criticism. It is about serving as apt check and balance of governance as a system, and not a political party or party politics always. Tonight, we will find out if the oversight role of the opposition in Parliament has been effective, and how potent has been the very opposition APC, even in the Public Account Committee. The current opposition also has the responsibility to govern local government councils in western urban and rural areas, including the city councils in the northern regions. It is also rational to gauge whether the enabling environment is created by the government for the opposition to function effectively, or if the very opposition has been a mere agent of propaganda, thwarting every sort of governance. Now, stalwarts of the All People's Congress APC party held a press conference early this week and have informed pressmen that their action to boycott or suspend from all parliamentary and governance activities is still instituted until Edmond Sylvester Alpha, the current chairman of the Electoral Commission of Sierra Leone, ECSL, is removed from office, noting that compliance to the tripartite recommendations on his appointment was never taken seriously. The senior members of the opposition also raised eyebrows on the current census process and even the new constitutional amendment bill, where they noted the president should be hands off in choosing a search and nomination committee for the appointment of ECSL boss. Now, according to the main opposition, Edmond Alpha, as new ECSL boss, is surrounded with allegations of conducting elections with irregularities. The members, via their press conference, have affirmed that until all these issues are amicably amended and Edmond Alpha, the current ECSL boss, is removed from office, their decision to boycott governance and all parliamentary activities still stands and shall institute a peaceful protest as last resort. Tonight, we ask the following questions. Is there a way out from the current political skirmishes? As the APC plans a peaceful protest, would it be peaceful or would there be casualties? In fact, would the APC get a clearance from the Inspector General of Police to organize a protest as their democratic right? Are things getting better at the moment, or are there early warning signs of political tensions already? Is there a prospect for peaceful national dialogue so far between the APC and the ruling SLPP government? Is it possible for President Bio to reverse his appointment of Edmond Alpha as the new ECSL boss after his approval and swearing in to appease the APC? Tonight, we will deep dive into some of these pointers of the conversation. I am Phoebe Swill, and this is AYV on Sunday. AYV on Sunday.
Hello and welcome. Please allow us to take you on an everlasting journey of hard-hitting journalism. No spin, no filter, just the truth.
On AYV on Sunday, we ask the questions that many are afraid to ask, and to test the level of sincerity and integrity of the people who have the power to shape our world.
From the bureaucratically minded corridors of power and the seats of the president,
to the deafening voices of the people that actually matter.
what you should know is that ours are not just mere conversations.
They are accountability personified, live, unfiltered, and in your face.
A live audience of 10 persons will also be included in each edition of the program on first come, first included basis.
Hello and welcome. I am Phoebe Swiel.
And I am Victor Jones.
And this is AYV on Sunday. AYV on Sunday.
Hello and welcome.
A member of parliament in Sierra Leone can lose their seat through dissolution of parliament, switching political parties, prolonged unexcused absence, or becoming disqualified under the Constitution, maybe a conviction of a crime, insanity, bankruptcy, or ceasing to be a citizen, as outlined in Section 77 of the 1991 Constitution. A member can lose their seat if they are absent from sitting for a period prescribed by the rules of procedure, often interpreted as 30 consecutive sittings without permission from the Speaker. Just after the 2023 elections, members of Parliament representing the All People's Congress boycotted Parliament and governance in entirety as they questioned the credibility and transparency of the 2023 elections. But the party's leadership decided to fully participate after the unity agreement through the Tripartite Committee. Less than 3 years later, the APC has gone back to the decision of abstaining from governance at all levels, but this time it is because of the Edmond Alpha appointment as chairman of the Electoral Commission of Sierra Leone. Tonight we ask the following questions. Are the APC members of Parliament going to remain absent from sittings of Parliament for such a prescribed period in the rules of parliamentary procedure? Are they moving to the narrow path where they would forfeit their seats in the well of Parliament? Are we moving to a one-party state? And is Sierra Leone currently a fragile but pro-democratic state? Is government and the main opposition ready for dialogue to resolve these conflicting issues? Where are we in electoral reforms? Why did President Bio put the tripartite recommendations aside and went ahead to appoint the new ECSL boss in line with the Constitution? Is there any impact of the very national unity resolutions and tripartite recommendations, or are we correct to say that the entire initiative would have been thrown into oblivion as mere waste of time and resources. Thank you very much indeed for joining me tonight. I am Phoebe Sweel. Welcome to AYV on Sunday. You're watching us on our local channel 33, our international channel 399 on DSTV, and listening to us on radio 101.7 FM. On the panel this evening, I am joined by Honorable Aminata Sise from the main opposition All People's Congress, Port Loko District. Honorable Alpha Kanu, presidential spokesman in the government of Sierra Leone and former member of parliament under the APC. And lawyer Augustine Sui Senbimara, pro-democracy activist. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
Thank you for joining me. To you, our viewers and listeners, you're highly encouraged to participate in the program by dropping a comment or question on the comment section of our Facebook page, AYV News, or our YouTube page, AYV Media Empire, and some of your messages would be read. Now, before we start the conversation, would like to take a report by one of the producers of AYV on Sunday, Emmanuel Nyake Momo, who attended the press conference organized by the main opposition, All People's Congress, at their party office early in the week in Freetown, where they explained their next line of action.
Afrobarometer published a survey which showed that trust in the Electoral Commission. Afrobarometer published a survey which showed that trust in the Electoral Commission that was being led by Edmund Alpha as the acting Electoral Commissioner, Chief Electoral Commissioner. Trust in that institution was at an all-time low. It had fallen.
As the political wind blows, suspicion seems emerge as the main opposition, All People's Congress Party, still believes that there is unfinished business in the national unity resolutions and tripartite recommendations.
How long does it take for us to implement the resolutions and the recommendations which are the heart of the matter? Well, I'd like you to know that in April 2025, this body, the All People's Congress Party, received a presentation from the Tripartite Secretariat led by Golo Carter. And he presented to us, among other recommendations, but particularly the ones of interest, the position of the ECSL recommendations. That was in April 2025, almost 1 year ago. In March 2026, we have received a presentation, and you can see that none of the recommendations have been concluded, except the 8 I just mentioned. That speaks to a lack of commitment.
Ahead of the 2028 elections, members of the main opposition, All People's Congress Party, also mentioned the big elephant in the room, which is a sharp objection on the appointment of Edmund Sylvester Alpha, chairman of the Electoral Commission of Sierra Leone.
We're going to talk about the elephant in the room, and that is the appointment of Edmund Sylvester Alpha. Of particular concern is the recent appointment of Mr. Edmund Sylvester Alpha as Chief Electoral Commissioner. For the 2023 discredited elections, Mr. Edmund Alpha was Regional Commissioner South and part of the team that we demand must go at Bintumani. This action by the President is inconsistent with recommendation 36 of the Tripartite Committee resolution, which calls for the establishment of an independent search and nominating committee to vet and recommend qualified candidates to His Excellency the President for appointment as Electoral Commissioner for Sierra Leone. In consequence, the APC has withdrawn participation of APC elected officials in Parliament and local councils until Mr. Edmund Alpha, who is an accomplice to the 2023 discredited election, leaves office.
The leadership of the party has decided that we will not recall our MPs and councillors to go back to Parliament and local councils unless and until the big question in the room is addressed. Edmund Alpha has to go. And soon, very soon, the leadership will announce a date through which we will organize a nationwide protest within the confines of the law. If there is one single message you should take away, it is that is the next move of the All People's Congress.
As the country slowly moves towards 2028 elections, some people tend to ask if early warning signs of tensions have already ignited or emerged, and whether or not the lessons are learned from previous 2023 elections, amidst the fact that government relies on Act Number 6 of the 1991 Constitution to have appointed, approved, and sworn Edmond Sylvester Alpha as Chief Electoral Commissioner. Emmanuel Nyakemomo, AYV News, Freetown.
Now, the situation is very dicey, getting more and more intense, Augustine. What do you think could be the possible way out of this in the best interest of the state? Edmond Alpha now is sworn in, so it's not just about President Bio and his appointment, it's about his protection in office under the Constitution. What could be the way out of this?
I think personally there's a lot to unpack in all of this. And I think that personally, it's worrying for me as a democracy practitioner. When you think that we would have grown as a nation, governance system, but then it seems as if we continue to spin in the very same position for several years. While I recognize that there are multiple aspects to what we're confronted with, suffice to state that what we need is these political players to be honest with the people of Sierra Leone. I talk about honesty because if you look at what we went through during the 2023 elections, one would have thought that lessons were learned and that we were navigating a new bend. But it seems as if we're still stuck with the 2023 elections. And personally, I did not quite support the boycott of governance by the APC after the 2023 elections.
Is it wrong to be stuck on the 2023 elections, given the controversy that emerged from the elections process and results?
Yes, I think I was coming to a critical point. Because I think once you have unresolved issues, they tend to linger over time, right? When we had all these issues and APC said they were not going to court because they did not trust the judicial system, I took it upon myself to file papers in the Supreme Court to cause the courts of Sierra Leone, the highest court of the land, to make an order compelling ECSL to disclose disaggregated, unaggregated, whatever species of results that the opposition desired. Obviously, the rest is history because technically they said I was outside time. That's a conversation for another day. But the point I'm making is that once you have a certain group of people who harbor the belief that indeed they won the elections, or in fact the current president did not quite meet the constitutional threshold, these questions would continue to linger. And the only way you can address them is to address them decisively. And whereas personally I did not support the tripartite arrangement, because as a practitioner I thought that you needed all shades of opinion, and it shouldn't be between SLPP and the APC only. But
they had the international community. They had moral guarantors.
Yes, for what it is worth, we had the tripartite report. We're now stuck with that. I am saying that the only way out of this is to ensure that we implement the tripartite and the agreement for national unity, syllable by syllable, clause by clause, phrase by phrase, and sentence by sentence. Because once you do that, the opposition will be left with nothing but to, agree with the implementation. And so far, so good. I think certain steps have been taken by the government party. So, personally, at this stage, I do not see any reason why they should back out of that process and introduce an appointment that is antithetical to the entire agreement for national unity and tripartite.
Now, APC is saying either Edmond Alpha is removed from office and they go back to participating and everything go back as it were, or they continue on this verge of abstinence from governance, and now they're saying at some point call for a peaceful protest. But constitutionally, is it possible to unseat Edmond Alpha currently in his office as chairman of ECSL?
I think we have several examples under this regime in which tenured people were kicked out of office without notice, several. So I don't think anybody should run and hide under the covers of constitution to say it cannot be done. Many examples. Governor of Bank of Sierra Leone was kicked out, anti-corruption commissioner kicked out, the chief justice then kicked out.
When it was done, was it right?
No, I am saying...
In the instances it was done, was it right?
It wasn't right.
So if it was not right then, how then is it right to be done now?
But people are questioning even the appointment, that the appointment ought not to have been made in the light of the initiation of the tripartite process, implementation process. So in essence, you cannot now say, flag the constitutional argument to say, oh, constitutionally, I cannot reverse the decision. Because in the first place, it was questioned. So I think the only way out of this situation is for all the political players to go back to the drawing board and implement the agreement for national unity and the tripartite recommendations, because this is what the APC is saying.
But going back to do that, you'd have to resolve the Edmond Alpha situation, which is the elephant in the room.
Absolutely.
How do you think this should be done? Is it Edmond Alpha as an individual who should resign, or is it President Bio who should reverse his appointment? How do you think this should be done?
I think, Phoebe, I know politicians, when they want things done, they have 1,000,001 ways of doing it. Like you said, there could be a subtle way of putting pressures to be on Edmond Alpha to resign. Also, if it pleased His Excellency, it could also displease His Excellency to withdraw the appointment. And that would, in my opinion, be the biggest demonstration of good faith in this regime. If that action, if that particular step were taken by the presidency of this country, it would send a clear message that this is not politics as usual. I am committed to ensuring that we sanitize electoral landscape and we prepare for the 2028 elections. If that is not done, I am afraid, like you said, we have several early warning signs now. It would then be the start of the perhaps the end of the 2028 elections. By that I mean, once this appointment is not reversed, what it would send, particularly to opposition parties, is that elections and electoral processes will be business as usual. And notwithstanding all the money spent, ECSL will continue to do exactly what they did in 2023 elections. And that would mean that there's no progress.
President Bio is doing his final term in office. He's reiterated that he has no intentions of going against the Constitution for a re-election. If he doesn't remove Edmond Alpha from office, what do you think that would do to his legacy? And if he does remove Edmond Alpha from office, what then would that do to his legacy?
I think beyond the legacy arguments, I have said that one of the things that President Bio promised the people of Sierra Leone was the revision of the 1991 Constitution and the introduction of a new Constitution that is progressive, that speaks to the realities of our democracy. That has not been done till date. And as a matter of fact, even during the conversations around the Constitutional Amendments Bill, that was when Edmond Alpha was introduced. But the point I'm making is that if the president goes ahead to withdraw that appointment, it would send a clear, unequivocal message, not just to the APC, but to the people of Sierra Leone, that one is a listening president, but also is a president committed to democracy. And the president, I think, has a track record, because I remember in 1996 when we were essentially drawn between peace and elections, he chose at that material time elections, right? So there's always a season, there's always a decisive moment in which one, especially leader, is called to do the right thing. And I think especially for our electoral landscape as it is now, we need a president that would take a bold action. And that bold action would be, I think that the opposition, main opposition party is opposed to the appointment in the light of the tripartite. In order not to forestall the process, I am going to withdraw that appointment. It would send a clear message that democracy, there's parties are speaking to each other, but also that the president cares more about our democracy than and perhaps the ego of office, right? But also, on the other hand, if he does not proceed to undo what he has done under the Constitution, I think that will create, unfortunately, an early chaos for the 2028 elections. Because now, legitimately, shadows of doubts have been cast on the entire electoral architecture. Because the Chief Electoral Commissioner is not just another commissioner. It's the one who announces election results and who certifies the winner of presidential elections. And I think it's critical for us to get it right. If it doesn't, I am afraid that will be the beginning of the chaotic scenes of 2028.
Alpha Khan, as presidential spokesman, tell us, what's the president thinking recently in this situation? There was an objection raised by the main opposition on the appointment of Edmond Alpha. He still went ahead. There was the approval, there was the swearing in, but the APC is still very stern on its position. What has the president been saying about this?
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody, again. Before I answer a question, I have a question for my friend and brother here, the landed attorney, Augustine Sengerman, and for the APC also. What has President done wrong? That is the question. Did he go against the Constitution? Did he, please.
Did the president not sign up to the tripartite committee recommendations?
You are confusing a recommendation.
Did he not sign up?
You are confusing a recommendation.
The president himself
did not sign up.
said he is very committed to seeing that implemented. Did he not say that?
The president is committed to the implementation of the tripartite.
How do you see both going?
I am saying that at the moment, as far as the tripartite is concerned, it remains a set of recommendations which the government is working on to try and implement. And part of the implementation is that there are some recommendations which need constitutional review, which need parliamentary ratification. And one of these is this suggestion from the tripartite committee that there should be a search party for the nomination and appointment of an electoral commissioner. But what is available at the moment to the president, when there is a vacancy, is that he has section 32(3) of the Constitution, which tells him that if you want to appoint a commissioner, you will now inform or consult with the political parties in the country, and then when you get a positive response, or when you get a response from them, because section 117(14) of the Constitution also says that any public official who is obliged to ask for advice from somebody else with regards to an appointment or an authority that he has to exercise, that advice could come, but he's not bound to follow that advice. But the president did follow the advice of 12 of the existing parties in Sierra Leone, registered parties out of 14. And he went ahead because he now has, on the law of averages, that he has a high number of people who supported this. The next thing is that appointment does not stop with the president's own nomination. It has to go to parliament. And in the parliament, that is where people approve the nomination and accept the appointment of the commissioner. This was done. The APC at the time had an opportunity. They are members of the appointments committee. They could have gone there to raise their objections. Apart from that, the report of the appointments committee
also... How much
also...
impact would that have made when eventually, whatever submissions they make in the debate, it still ends with a vote? They don't have the numbers to change any of what was about to happen.
That's it.
What difference would it have made?
A lot of difference. And I'll give you an example. Back in 2007, the APC, of which I formed part at that time, had 27 members of parliament, while the SLPP, then in governance, had 85 members of parliament plus 12 members of parliament chief who usually vote with the government. It's 97 against 27. Dr. Christian Atop came with a bill in parliament for the delimitation of constituencies. Our party supported that. We were 27. The SLPP argued against it, 85. When it was put to the vote, because of superior argument from our side, 58 members of the SLPP voted on our side too. So it's not a foregone conclusion that they would have lost it. It depends on the kind of argument you put across, the reasons you give. And if they see that these are nationalistic issues, the government, the opposition would work with you, or the government would work with you. They worked with us in 2007. And this is what happened. So I cannot assume that the APC did not go because they assumed that they were going to lose. So why go to the football match if you believe you're going to lose anyway? But because you signed up to represent your district, to represent your conscription in that competition, you're obliged to go. If you don't go, you lose, and you lose awfully, with sometimes your tail between your legs. But I'm saying that there was no reason for the APC to have kept themselves out of that debate in Parliament, because when you want to strengthen democracy, you participate in it. You don't withdraw your participation. When you withdraw your participation, it's just dereliction of duty. So for me, to answer your question, the APC had no reason to be afraid that they were going to lose the vote anyway. It's because the only reason they would have done that is that the president did nothing wrong. He did everything right. And Edmond Alpha, or the commissioner, any commissioner, has certain criteria that that commissioner must fulfill before you are nominated or appointed. The most important one is that you should be a...
Was it concerning to President Bill that the APC as main opposition had strong reservations against Edmond Alpha in connection to his participation in the 2023 elections?
Why didn't
was it concerning?
They should have gone.
President
Well, President Bill is one person. He's made the nomination. That's one step. The other steps are what? Asking for, informing the other political parties. That was done, and this time, even by writing, I think it's the first time. The other most important step is ratification by Parliament. Going to be grilled by the appointments committee. Is President
Bill aware of the allegations against Edmond Alpha by the APC?
How would I say that he's aware? They could have made that available to everybody and public
so
by going.
He's not aware.
So why didn't they go to Parliament to put this across? Why didn't they? You have the platform. You don't go to the court of public. No, don't ask me. Don't ask me that question. Don't ask me that question. I wouldn't know if
you are the president.
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know if he's aware. I wouldn't know if he's not aware. I wouldn't know.
So you're not aware if your boss is aware
I would not know. I would not know
of the allegations against Edmond Alpha.
My dear, I would not know if he's aware. He never told me that.
But did you ever bring that to him?
I did not bring it up because there was no reason for me to bring it up. A man was nominated. He had to go to vetting in Parliament. The opposition had all the right to go there and bring up the objections against him. They did not do that. Why did they assume? Do they have evidence? Maybe they did not have evidence. So if your case is weak, you don't take it there. But I think if they had a strong case, they would have gone to Parliament and argued it there. And from there, the next step is there are several lines of redress that you can take. You don't sit on assumptions.
You're close to the president because you're his spokesman.
On an official point of view.
How does the president feel about post-elections conflict that really tend to derail or slow the process, the progress of governance and development in Sierra Leone?
Thank you very much.
How does he feel generally?
Thank you very much for that question. He feels very strongly about it. That is why in August of 2023, when he went to give his State of the Nation, this parliamentary speech, he was the one who actually suggested, proposed, that a committee had to be set up to look into the laws of Sierra Leone governing elections, because it believes that there are some certain issues that do not sit well with opposition parties when results are announced. He was victim of it in 2012, and he said that. We were victim of it in 2002. Then in 2018, there were other complaints. Dr. Samura refused to go to appeal against the results and all that. So there are certain issues which were not very well accepted by all parties. So he said, let us get a committee where we will look at all the laws that govern us and see where we can improve them. So he feels very strongly about it and is committed to it. To answer your question.
He feels strongly about it, but what's the evidence that he feels strongly about it? To those, so it's a very interesting situation. You have those who are in favor of what President Bio did, appointing Edmond Alpha, being part of the swearing-in ceremony, and you have those who criticize the president for doing that on the grounds that he himself as an individual says he's been a victim, as you just nicely put it, a victim of the same situation of elections disagreement over results. And he is not seeking re-election. He sits in a very comfortable position to make a change. He has said he's committed to the implementations of the tripartite recommendations. How does he now come back to beat the same process by now going to appoint someone else to be chairman of the Electoral Commission when the process is ongoing in Parliament for the recommendations to be fully implemented?
I respect your logic, but unfortunately, you are mistaken in the sense that the president was the one who brought this committee into being. And according to the committee, and apart from that, in section, I think 100 or whatever the Constitution says, every agreement signed on behalf of the government of Sierra Leone or by the government of Sierra Leone must first be placed in Parliament. Section 40. Thank you. So, until that is done, it is not law. And the president sitting there today, he runs the country under governance with the Constitution as it is until it is amended. It hasn't been amended yet. So the law is the law. Recommendations may be all nice and all that, but if they are do not yet have the force of law, he cannot implement them. Nobody will. If he does that, the same people will still cry that the president did something that is not been enacted in Parliament. He will not do that.
How could that not be interpreted as insincere, hypocritical, or double-standard?
By the president? By the president?
Yes.
I think it's mischievous to do it, to qualify that as that. No, it's mischievous. Somebody who has come up importantly. Nobody prodded him. We are going to put a committee to make sure that these things don't repeat in future elections.
Which is
Let us come together.
But why the rush now?
Why do you mean what the rush? There is no rush. Edmond Alpha has been acting as chairman of the commission for the maximum period of 7 months. Edmond Alpha has been appointed on the basis that, one, he is a Sierra Leonean, two, that he is not above 65 years old, and three, that he is competent to hold that, and he has experience. That has been done. Once he makes that, it was a nomination. Parliament could have rejected that. And once they reject it, he wouldn't force it. So he throws it to the parties, according to the Constitution. So he will consult, and he did consult. And then he then goes ahead and makes the appointment when he gets a positive feedback from the majority of the parties registered in Sierra Leone. Now, if I had an axe to grind, and I was in the opposition against the appointment of Edmond Alpha, I would go to Parliament. I would go to the Appointments Committee. I've been to that committee, and they grill you. They do grill you on everything, including personal issues. I've been there. They leave no stone unturned. And when they come out with their report, you'll know that if you go through that, then you really are qualified for that. So after that, it goes to the main hall.
Now APC is saying it's either Edmond Alpha is out of that office, or they would continue to abstain from governance and at some point call for a peaceful protest. I am sure this information has gotten to the president. What is the president's reaction to the APC stance? Is it looking like he's going to remove Edmond Alpha, or is nothing going to change?
First of all, I think you said that in your intro. The president has no power now to remove Edmond Alpha. Edmond Alpha can only be removed at the present where he is, according to section 32(8). A member of the Electoral Commission may be removed from office by the president for inability to discharge the functions of his office, whether arising from infirmity of mind, idoncrace, or body, or any other cause, or for misbehavior. Has he misbehaved? He has not. In the new office, he has not.
By the APC
Where was that allegation placed? Was it in court? Was that allegation placed in court? Was it made in court? Was it made in a place where? Let me please finish.
So,
thank you. You'll have your opportunity.
No, please. You're saying it's not in the president's desire. It's not in his line of thinking right now.
Of course not. The president. Look, it is not a matter of desire. You don't run a government on sentiment. You run a government according to the Constitution. That's your rule. You are sworn to carry the Constitution, and you're sworn to do that for us. And we should really be very comfortable that our president sticks to the document that has been written, that keeps us a nation, as a nation.
So having made that clear, you were once a member of the APC. Had you been in the APC by now, what advice would you be giving to the APC as a way forward to move out of this situation?
Oh, let's go to Parliament. Let's go to Parliament and be there at the vetting. If we don't make it, let's go to the open plenary when the report is presented and make our arguments to the public. Yes, that's what I would have done.
Yeah, but
and
now that it is
like that, my advice,
advise them to do?
Please go to Parliament. If you do not go to Parliament, you are voluntarily making yourself irrelevant in the governance of Sierra Leone. You are. You are making yourself, what do you call it? You're making yourself unimportant. Because if you're not in Parliament, where decisions are taken, and your absence there cannot stop the functioning of Parliament. Section 94(3), Augustine Sengbe-Mara will tell you, it's very clear that the absence of a member or members of Parliament will not stop Parliament from functioning. And it will function as long as it has a quorum. So Section 94(3) is very, very clear. Go to Parliament so you don't lose relevance.
Would come to the repercussions of their abstinence in governance. Honorable Aminata, the presidential spokesman is saying the president is aware of the demands, but he's not thinking in that direction of removing Edmond Alpha. Abstaining from participation, the boycott, and a peaceful protest. How does this change anything? How does this give your party what you want?
Thank you very much, Fabian, and good evening to Sierra Leoneans around the world. I'm glad when we start this program today, you made a comment where we say there's a lot of things to change. And you said when you do your work, you don't wait to be thanked. So we are not waiting to be thanked at the end of the tunnel of this. What we are doing is the role of parliamentarians. We are members of Parliament. We as a political party respect the fact that the sovereignty of Sierra Leone belongs to the people of Sierra Leone. from whom we derive our powers as members of parliament. And from that standpoint, the people who represent, which is our key role among the three, the representation, making of laws, and oversight, they have told us we should not allow what happened to them in 2023 to repeat itself. And we all know what happened in 2023, unless we want to go back to memory lane. One thing we know for sure, the elections of 2023 were not credible. They were not transparent, and the people were aggrieved. They knew how they voted, and they have an expectation. That expectation wasn't met by this government. And as opposition, it was very difficult at the time for us to sit with this government because we had no trust in them, which was why we had a third party, which is why it's a tripartite committee. What they have shown is that we had a right to have doubted them, because despite having international committee present there, they have repeated exactly what we've seen, the behaviors of what we saw in 2023. When I say we are boycotting from Parliament as a political party, it is not because we just want to wear the crown as members of Parliament at all, Phoebe, and far from it. In fact, when people center this entire thing around Edmond Alpha, of course it's the elephant in the room. It's probably one of the very important reasons why we're boycotting. But there are many other issues. And I know for sure as a party, we've taken platforms like this and many more, pointing out issues. We start calling out when the census were running late. We start calling on government when the implementation of the tripartite was running far behind. We start calling on Parliament, calling on the Speaker to say a simple committee, which is a steering committee for the tripartite committee to be formed in Parliament, wasn't being formed. When they laid the constitutional amendment, we were very clear that those amendments needs to be looked at thoroughly. We were against them. They knew, so this did not come out of the blue. As a party, we've called the government every step of the way, almost like following to ensure we were doing this as we agreed. And people will say this tripartite committee doesn't supersede the Constitution. I agree. It doesn't by any means supersede the Constitution. And, you know, I could not have agreed with anything more. But just like my senior uncle here, who I have a lot of respect for, the Honorable Alpha kind of said, if you are doubting the tripartite committee and its legitimacy, let me take you back to on the Constitution, 1991 Constitution, which the President should respect, in section 44. And I'll read this out very quickly. It said, now, notwithstanding any provision of this Constitution or any other law to the contrary, the President shall, without prejudice to any short laws as may, for the time being, be adopted by Parliament, be responsible. So the President shall be responsible, in addition to the functions conferred upon him in the Constitution, for A, all constitutional matters concerning legislation. The President is responsible while Parliament is not interfere with this. So what this says is, this was a constitutional matter. The President was in charge of this. B, relations with foreign states. And we've seen the President going on foreign state and coming with an agreement. C, the reception of convoy accredited to Sierra Leone and appointment of principal. But the main one I want to bring you to is D. The execution of treaties, agreements, or conventions in the name of Sierra Leone. The tripartite wasn't signed in the name of Mada Bio as a president. It was signed on the behalf of the people of Sierra Leone. So you're saying the
tripartite committee is legitimate?
It was
legitimately backed by the Constitution.
It was legitimately backed by the people of Sierra Leone. The president and the government had signed that agreement with the people of Sierra Leone. As a government, when we sign on behalf of Sierra Leone. So the mandate was upon the government to put this through. And they have discussed it in cabinet. We were told, reliably informed, that it has gone through cabinet. Why was it in cabinet if it was just a gentleman's agreement? After cabinet, the government had a mandate, has a responsibility, not the opposition. And they keep saying this so foolishly when we all know what the Constitution says here. It wasn't upon us to go. We've never seen where the government goes into an agreement and it's the other party that takes the agreement to Parliament. It was a mandate that was vested upon the government to take it to Parliament. So the question here, why was it not taken to Parliament in time? before we do any of this that we're doing today. We've been in Parliament when agreements have come here, Fabian. They kept us there till 11 p.m. just to ensure they got through that day. You get told first reading, second reading, third reading, everything got to be done in one day. Why was this so difficult for the government to do? And these are the questions we should ask. It's so funny because when we talk about integrity today, you look like the old one outside the room. What we're asking for here is no miracle. We're not begging the government on anything new. All we're saying is based on what you and your government and ourselves have agreed, let us follow through.
How is the president going against the Constitution to remove Edmond Alpha?
We're not saying
something you would support as members of parliament.
What we'll support that he does, just like my learned colleague Ibrahim Sori said earlier, will be first of all to own up and say to himself, the appointment was not even legitimate at this point, was not required now. We could have gone through the tripartite and made the corrections that are necessary from the SHAT committee.
Sorry, let's understand this. Wasn't legitimate or timely?
It wasn't timely, let's say that.
Because the
legality from the Constitution, like you say, no, it's true. From the Constitution aspect, he can argue from the Constitution that is right. But the Constitution was there when you signed the tripartite agreement. So again, knowing the Constitution was there, why did you sign the agreement to the change?
Alpha Khan also raised very serious points.
Also said
why did you walk out of Parliament when you could sit there, be part of the debate, be part of the team to question Edmond Alpha, and bring up the allegations you hold against him as a political party?
I'll tell you why. The reason why we didn't do that was because when the president made his speech, as he said in Parliament, upon taking over before the tripartite, he agreed that election malpractices needs to be settled, that we needed to sit down. And when he said that to us, we agree. The question that we should now be asking, having agreed and having done that tripartite recommendation, and haven't knowing that the Constitution was there, but we needed amendment, and we're now going through the amendment, what is the urgency? Why are we now rushing all of a sudden? But let me come to your question, why we decided to walk out rather than stay in Parliament. Because we thought, we've made our position very clear long before they even go to Parliament, on the consultations. When the president have consulted us as a party, we state our position very clearly, and we state the reasons for that.
But could it have been that you could have been part of the debate, you could have questioned Edmond Alpha? Could it have been possible also that other members of even the SLPP or Paramount Chief MPs could have voted in favor to not approve Edmond Alpha, as for example we saw with the Lara Telopia situation? The expectation for many was that all APC MPs would not vote in favor of removing her from office, but that was not the result. Even some of the APC MPs voted in favor of removing her from office. Couldn't you have tested your own system the same well where you were?
No, we didn't, because as far as we were concerned, you know, the trust had been broken from that point, even prior to going to Parliament. Like I said, as a political party, one of the biggest political party that was part of that tripartite committee, when we had said we are objecting to Edmond Alpha's appointment with state reason, the president could have called us to talk about that. But his blatant ignorance of the opposition party was enough to make us know that they were going to go ahead anyway. And even if we were not in the room...
And were you not expected to even still go ahead with your participation anyway?
Even if we were not there, if the SLPP, knowing the history of Edmond Alpha, which everybody knows in this country, about the changing of 049 to 149, which is like a music now on the floor, if they knew and they had any integrity in them, they could have voted against that.
Alpha Khan said he's not aware if president is even aware of those allegations or not.
But he's very
I said you said you're not aware if president is aware.
No,
please. President is aware. It's president who sent him.
He cannot tell me what I do.
But I understand, you know, like I said, he's our uncle from Local. We understand. His times are very difficult at the moment. This man needs to save himself from the SRPP. But I'm telling you, they are aware. The crimes, and like I said, even when we did the tripartite committee, it wasn't just for Kone. We said for all the electoral commissioner, that includes Edmond Alpha. So why was that a clause on the recommendation? That all of them had to go. We didn't just say one, we just didn't say the chief electoral commissioner. We said all of the commissioner. And this was agreed, jointly agreed by both sides. How do you now go and make that person a chief electoral commissioner?
Those people the APC demand to be removed, all those people, are Sierra Leoneans.
Yeah.
That's their job. Those are people who have families to feed. How then do you comfortably ask for their jobs to be affected? The very same situation that, on the flip side, both the APC and the SLPP complain about people not having job security all in the name of politics. How do you justify asking for people's removal in offices?
Oh, Vivian, I have to laugh at that because like I said to you, this wasn't just a request by APC, this was a joint request by both parties. If you were saying to me the removal of 5 commissioners was more deadly than the unrest that almost happened in this country, that is a joke. It's a serious joke. There are 5 in members, and I can add together with all of their families, they're still less than 0.0001% of this country for the chaos they caused to this country. A chaos that we're still seeing today, the impact of that. The people that have suffered today, the number of deaths we've had in the streets of Freetown alone, not the entire district, not the country, in other areas, just Freetown alone. The amount of death we've had will amount to the families of those 5 commissioners. So we have no regret when we say they should go. Are they think about their families? Are they think that they're Sierra Leoneans? They shouldn't have done what they did.
Can the APC guarantee the people of Sierra Leone a peaceful protest without casualties?
Oh yes, 100%. In fact, as a political party, that is what we do. The safety of our people comes first. The safety of Sierra Leone has always come first, which was why we signed the Tripartite Committee. Had we not signed that, I think it would have been a different story. But knowing very well we wanted the peace of this country, and I can assure you, we need to be given clearance for this protest. It's very much necessary. The people want it.
Would you guarantee a peaceful protest without casualties to the people of Sierra Leone when we've seen instances when, even just for secondary school sports, you have kids and adults who would go on the rampage. Thieves would tap into that opportunity to cause mayhem. On what backbone would you guarantee a peaceful protest without casualties?
Throughout the history of Sierra Leone, schools have had protest, and protest is a democratic right. Yes, we can think about what's going to be the outcome of the protest, but as a government, they owe it to their people to guarantee their safety. It is why we're requiring for a clearance. It is why we're giving notice. It's why we're saying our people are not happy with this process. The president has a choice. He can now listen and reverse all of this if he wants to, as a government. If he wants the peace of this country the way I want it, the way my political party so desperately want it, the way I'm sure you will want it, Fabian. So, but you know, we talk about student riot and maybe 1 stab and 2 stab. Let's talk about August 10, where the government is seeing its own people for having a riot or having a disgruntlement that they come out and be killed. So, you know, how are we going to guarantee our people? We give them 100% guarantee that you have a right to protest. And we've applied, and we hope we're going to get clearance, so we're going to come out and protest. It's up to the government.
So what happens if the Sierra Leone Police doesn't give the approval, if the Inspector General of Police doesn't give you the clearance?
What would be their reason for not giving the clearance is what we would like to know before we get to that. We don't want to preempt mayhem. We don't want to say it's going to be mayhem. We don't want mayhem, Fabian. We want this to be a peaceful protest. But it's a democratic right for the people.
Let's assume you get the clearance, there's a peaceful protest. Yes. You go ahead with the protest. Then what?
We go ahead with the protest.
What impact would it make?
We show the president the number of people that are unhappy with his decision and ask him to reconsider.
And what if he doesn't?
The government. If he doesn't, we go back to where we start. Because he has, you know, like I said, for now, they're making this look like it's the APC demands, which is why our people have said,
but
let us come out and show them.
Isn't it the APC demands?
It isn't the APC alone. It's the APC with its people. The people of Sierra Leone, I bet
you when that day, is, of course, the people in the APC.
I'm going to assure you in that protest, you're going to find SL people there. You're going to find a lot of SL people there, SLPP people there. Not those in parliament maybe, but a lot of other supporters that disagree with Edmond Alpha's appointment, that disagree that the
You're saying there are people within the SLPP who disagree with Edmond Alpha's appointment?
Many.
How so? When you going on that, you could have tested that in Parliament by debating and allowing them to vote.
I said to you, Phoebe, and not the members of Parliament. They have not shown that they're against it. They agreed with it and signed him on. But mind you, the SLPP is not just the members of Parliament that are sitting in the world. They're representative of people. And the question I really want to ask them, how much do they represent their people in that decision? Because I know from talking to their people, most of them are against that appointment. So the question is, who were they representing? Were they really acting as a representative or as instrument of the government?
Augustine.
That is a question for them to answer.
APC wants to do a protest. But do you see a peaceful protest, whether or not the Inspector General of Police gives them clearance to hold the protest? Let's say, for argument's sake, they hold the peaceful protest. President Bio doesn't change his mind. Edmond Alpha doesn't decide to resign. What then?
I think before I answer that, I think I've, had a lot of smartness from this side of the room, especially from Honorable Alpha Khan. I think it's been very clever with the textual provisions in the Constitution. But unfortunately, I think what is lacking in all of this is a sense of honesty and political trust that is required to move this process forward. I don't think we have the climate and the landscape for peaceful protests. I don't think we have. We have a very fragile country, but suffice to say that when the opposition feels that all the avenues have been explored and no desirable solution has been attained, they would tend to think that protests will be the only a way out.
In a country
mind
like
you, under the
Syria,
APC,
does a protest have an impact?
No, but mind you, under the APC, when we started the Renaissance, some of my brothers in government now, and we did the, we applied to the IG for clearance to do the Black Monday. I remember quite clearly because we were summoned to the IG's office. I went there with a few of the folks in government. One of whom is occupying the once position Honorable Alpha Khan held under the APC. And since we were denied that clearance, what we did was to apply in the Supreme Court for a declaration that protest is a right under the Constitution of Sierra Leone. Unfortunately, since 2017 to date, that case has not been listed for hearing. And I am counsel on record for that matter. So both under the APC and under the SLPP, there's been a clear manifestation and demonstration that there is very little appetite for government to accommodate dissent, protest, demonstration, etc., etc. And what that does to our governance is that some unconventional voices would not exploit the lack of inclination on the part of government to accommodate dissenting voices. I am saying if, for example, if it had been APC that had called for that demonstration or protest in August 10, they could have provided leadership. They could have managed that a whole lot better than what we experienced on August 10. So the fact of the matter is, if the opposition, being the main opposition, feels that protests will trigger solutions more than maybe dialogue has, I think that the government, the sitting government, must accommodate them. It is also the responsibility of government to provide security for those who are aggrieved. Because many times we talk a lot about the rights, for people to vote, but protests can be equated to the rights to be given a ballot paper, right? I am not saying that dramatically, if they went ahead with the protest, dramatically things would change. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that a lot of things would change in the dynamics.
Things can easily go south with the protest.
Absolutely.
We've seen this even in countries that have the most sophisticated, maybe, forms of policing, for lack of a better way to put it. Take, for example, the US.
Absolutely.
We've seen, look at Kenya. We've seen what was meant to be a peaceful protest go south very easily. Can we afford, as a nation, to take that chance?
Amphibian, I don't know what the security apparatus would be deployed in terms of demonstration. But I'm saying that if you have a legitimate, registered main opposition that has indicated a desire to hold a national demonstration. I think that the security paraphernalia, they need to sit with the APC to determine what sort of protests, the magnitude of the protests, the protest areas, and also provide security. Because, we've seen situations where political rallies are conducted across the country. And these are peaceful rallies. Because once you have leadership, once they take leadership of these demonstration of protests, you have people who you would hold accountable. Because you can then agree on the rules of engagement. You can agree, for example, by saying that, can we confine your protest to Atuga Stadium for Freetown? Can we go to the main Southern Arena for Bow? Can we go to Wusum for McKinney? Can we go to, I know what's the field's name in Poloko for Honorable Alpha Baibure, for example. So once you agree on those dynamics, they could now marshal their supporters to Baibure Field, to Wusum, to Atuga, and then they could channel their grievances. Because the danger of denying them an opportunity to vent out their spleens would be that unconventional elements, those who would not play by the rules, would now fan the flames. This is what we saw on August 10, and we don't want a repeat of that. You don't want to give any appetite for those who would not fall within the decorum of society, to exploit the fact that, oh, they were not given clearance. We would now call out those who are disgruntled, those who are dissatisfied, to jump on the streets. So I am saying that the security sector, they need to sit with the main opposition party to determine the length, breadth, and character of the protest. But if you were to ask me, I think that the office of the presidency needs to rise to the occasion.
How?
This is a time to demonstrate leadership and to demonstrate and to restore trust. Because when Honorable Sise was speaking, she spoke about trust. That one, they did not go to court because they said they lacked trust in the judiciary. They did not go to parliament. They did not take up their seats because they said the government was not trustworthy. Then President, on his own volition, during his speech in parliament, invited the aggrieved party, the main opposition, to dialogue, and that was how the agreement for national unity and tripartite. So tripartite is a creation of President Bio. It cannot now, while the baby is still trying to, wean the baby off the milk and whatever lactation that is required for the baby to grow well. I think in this instance, the office of the presidency needs to ensure that trust is reintroduced in the dynamics. I think that one meeting, one dialogue with the opposition party and the moral guarantors, one indication that we would go back to the drawing board and implement every letter of the tripartite would get the APC to say demonstration cancelled.